All right, hello, MOSI. My name is Mark, and I'll be talking to you guys for the next few minutes and our continuation of our space program this week. So, we have a lot of fun things planned for you guys today. This whole week has been all about space. On Monday, you learned about how planets rotate around the sun. On Tuesday, you learned a little bit about how gravity affects us all. And yesterday, you guys learned a little bit about how stars are formed. Now, if you didn't learn about any of those, feel free, after this video is done, to scroll on down our Facebook feed because those are all posted there. As always, we have my wonderful camera person, Ramilla, behind us today. And our co-worker, Mr. Ian, is going to be answering questions behind the scenes. So if you have any questions as I am talking, feel free to type them in the comment section below, and my good compatriot Ian will be able to answer them in real time or relay them verbally to me when I stop talking. So, today is going to be all about constellations. In particular, it's going to be about one constellation, and that is going to be Orion. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is a constellation? Well, a constellation is a region of space that has a recognizable pattern, and normally it's named after the form that it takes or a mythological figure. Now, there are 88 internationally recognized constellations, but there are actually many more. Throughout history, different peoples from different parts of the world have been looking up at the same stars in the night sky and have seen different objects pertaining to their own lives, and they each have their own cultural history that has these different types of constellations that tell their own stories, as well as teaches morals to people. And working through and looking up at the night sky is kind of, to an untrained eye, like the world's largest game of connect the dots. Luckily on the internet, though, there are a whole bunch of wonderful different types of resources for you guys to use. So if this lesson piques your interest, feel free to keep discovering. So, like I said, we are going to be talking a little bit about the constellation Orion today. And I chose Orion because it is a really cool constellation to begin with, but also because it has a couple of super cool features that are highlighted very nicely that some other constellations don't necessarily have. First and foremost is going to be the constellation itself. Now, the constellation of Orion is, the Orion the hunter, and he's standing here with his sword brandished up in the air. And you might not have seen the whole constellation in the night sky, especially if you're not looking for it, but I know you guys have probably all seen Orion's belt. And Orion's belt are going to be these three stars, represented by my three yellow magnets here today, and they're kind of close together in a line. And this is technically called an asterism. Now, an asterism is a small grouping of stars that have a recognizable pattern. The Big Dipper is actually also an asterism because it's part of a larger constellation, which is Ursa Major. So, if you find Orion's belt, if you go outside after the sun sets and it gets a little dark and you look to the southwest, you'll probably see Orion hanging out there, especially during this time of year. It is a winter constellation, so the best time to have viewed it has already passed, but you can still see it in the night sky. As you're looking at Orion, there are going to be a star which is going to be Orion's right shoulder, which is called Betelgeuse, and it's actually a red supergiant. And as you're looking up into the night sky, you can actually see it has a reddish hue to it. Obviously, if you're somebody who wears glasses or are colorblind, you might not be able to see that as well. But if you stay outside, the longer you stay outside at night, the better your eyes adjust to the darkness, especially if you're away from any city lights or from your backyard or anything like that, since we are maintaining proper social distancing and not going to any crowded places. But as you are looking up at the night sky, Betelgeuse is going to be his right shoulder, and that is, like I said earlier, a red supergiant. And a red supergiant is going to, I know we talked a little bit about star formations yesterday, so I'll just briefly touch upon this, but it is actually less hot than our current sun. Because it is red, that tells us how much heat is being produced by the star. Our sun outside is a nice bright yellow, and then if we go further up the hotness spectrum to Orion's left leg, we have Rigel, which is going to be a blue star, which actually burns hotter than our sun by a couple thousand degrees Kelvin. And so one other feature in Orion that is really cool is right here in Orion's sheath is the nebula, Orion's nebula, or the M42 nebula. And this nebula itself, you can kind of see with your regular unaided eye, it kind of has this murky milkiness around it. And that's because a nebula is a bunch of gases and dust swirling around. And in particular, the Orion Nebula is the nebula that's closest to Earth that stars are being born. And so this nebula is about 26 light years across, and you can see the murkiness as you're looking up at the night sky. Wonderful. So that is going to be an asterism. We have the Orion's belt, we have the red star Betelgeuse, we have the blue star Rigel, and we have the Orion Nebula. Now, this lesson comes at a perfect time because today and tomorrow is actually the perfect time for you to find Venus and see another very cool star cluster, the Pleiades. So Venus is going to be the second brightest celestial object in the night sky after the moon. And so normally as the sun is setting and things are starting to get dark, Venus is going to be one of the first things you see because of the gases in its atmosphere and the way it reflects light. It appears a lot brighter than most of the stars. Also its proximity to Earth. But Venus is going to be directly in the center of the Pleiades tonight and tomorrow night as well. And so that's a really easy way to find the Pleiades, which are going to be a star cluster. And so another name for the Pleiades is actually going to be the Seven Sisters. Even though most people can only see 6, and sometimes you actually have to be outside for a half hour or so before you can even see the whole mess of stars. And there's actually a whole bunch of stars tucked in there. So when you're looking at the Pleiades, it does kind of have a murkyish glow to it as well, because there's a whole bunch of stars there that you can't see unaided. But if you don't see Venus tonight or tomorrow and you can't quite seem to find the Pleiades, a good way is to find Orion's belt, find Betelgeuse, and then you go on up past his head and you pass through the Eye of the Bull, which is Aldebaran. And then the Pleiades will be just on the other side. So it kind of forms a line going on through. Wonderful. Feel free to put any questions below if you have any. Wonderful.
So we have a question from Tuilan.
Yes.
We always look in the same direction to find Orion at all times of the year.
So no, as the Earth moves and rotates around the sun, Orion will also shift with will shift around the night sky. So at different times of the year, Orion will be more or less visible depending on where you guys are watching this. There are wonderful, I have one right here, there are sky maps online that are broken down by month that shows you where different constellations are in the sky, in the night sky. Wonderful question, thank you. Awesome, so we talked about Venus, we talked about Orion, star clusters and asterisms, but I know why you guys are really here, and that is so you guys can figure out what to do with all of those empty toilet paper rolls that you probably have accumulated in your house about now, since we are all at home, working from home, staying safer at home. But this is a good way to bring the stars directly into your house. A couple hours ago, actually, we posted something that looks a little bit like this on our website, on our Facebook page. So if you scroll down a little bit after this video is done, feel free to print that on out, because we are going to harness the power of the stars and we are going to make our own constellation viewers. Now this is a super simple activity, and you can do this with any old constellation or asterism that you choose. You can even make up your own if you are interested in creating up with a whole fun mythology as a creative writing project or something for those of you kids watching at home with nothing to do. So, I have chosen a couple different utensils here. If you don't have them all, no worries. You can adjust based off of what you have. Essentially a writing utensil, a slicing utensil, a sticky utensil, and a pokey utensil. So first things first, you take your toilet paper roll tube or your cardboard roll, and I find it works best if you find some thinner cardboard or even thicker cardboard. You just might have to cut a little bit stronger. And you take your toilet paper tube and you can draw a circle around it, just like so. Sorry, thank you. I did not do that too well. And so this is going to essentially be the outline of where you're able to create your constellation. So now we have these wonderful things. They actually fit pretty well directly over the top. And so what you want to do is you can very gently just poke through. Now, if you push all the way through, you're going to go into the table beneath you, or the ground, or the rug, whatever you're doing this on at home. But if you just slightly push them through, you can make little holes that don't go all the way through, and then you can safely put it through and give it a little wiggle to make sure that the star is nice and open.
So we're poking through where
Yes.
on our handy-dandy chart.
And so I have chosen the constellation Orion since I was just talking about it. But the one that we posted online has 9 different constellations, but there are 88 internationally recognized ones as well, and different cultures do have their own constellations. So now that we have our holes poked on through, what we can do is we can cut it out. And I found that actually works best is if you leave a little room for some tabs, so it looks a little bit like this. And so now I'm going to cut it out really quick, and we have something that looks a little bit like this. Now this is going to be what we are going to be placing over the end of our toilet paper tube roll. Those tabs are going to help it fold down and set it in place. We'll use these tabs, and we can take these wonderful sticky utensil, I think I called it. And that is going to be what we are going to adhere our constellation to one end of our paper towel tube. Now, of course, if you don't have any tape, you can use glue. If you don't have any tape and or glue, you can just hold it there. Or use paper clips and stuff. There's a whole bunch of ways to do this project. So feel free to experiment. And if you find something, a different way that's super cool, feel free to leave it in the comment section below so other people can try it out. Now, once we are done, we will have something that looks like this. I know my tape changed so quickly. I don't know what happened. And then what you could do is you could grab your favorite type of light source, albeit if it is a flashlight or a cellular device. Turn off the lights. Now, we unfortunately have these wonderful windows here at MOSI, so I don't know if you can actually see, but what's going to happen is you then are able to take your light source and you're able to put it on through, and if you guys can, I don't know if you can see that on the video, but you have the pinpricks of light, and congratulations, friends. After you complete this project, you will have harnessed the power of constellations. Wonderful. So I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. Don't forget, every weekday here at MOSI at 1:30 on our Facebook, we are going virtually MOSI. Join us tomorrow as we do a tour of the Saunders Planetarium and see Kronos rise out of its pit. And it's a really cool thing to watch if you've never seen it, kind of a little bit of a behind the scenes look. As always, feel free to comment below. If you haven't seen our other Facebook Lives, feel free to scroll back in our feed and keep discovering.